So we are on the, on the retreat here. Okay, I guess we can start. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All right, I promised a kind of sequence or sequel to like these fashionable Sharks 1, Sharks 2, you know, this is then Shark 3. Well, my name is Bela, and as you see from the signature, I am the artist who painted this picture, and perhaps this picture per se might not be familiar to you, but in our previous segment I alluded to the fact that, you remember, I framed a little area there, and I said that we should explore what happens in between those two trees. Well, this is what happens. You can see that now the trees are gone, so there is no hide and seek or no peekaboo there. As a matter of fact, this is just the perceptual opposite of the previous one. There is a huge space in front of us. Half of the painting is really foreground, and with some exaggeration, the other half of the building is sky. What is going on in here? Well, there is a bigger framework, a kind of bigger reference here, that this is a Midwestern town which is flat, infinite expansions, you know, of space and infinite height and expansion of the sky. So, to a certain extent, this little man-made strip is by nature's grace there. You know, this is not natural. The natural would be a big horizon line here, big sky, big ground, forget about the rest. Well, the rest is here, and it is a kind of human intrusion to something which was perhaps not supposed to welcome all that. At any rate, I was fascinated by the stage-like quality of these buildings. You see the stylistic boogie-woogie, you know, it is just jumping from one period to the other. You see, this was Mauresque. It was inspired by Spanish architecture of the 12th and 13th centuries of the Muslims, the Mohammedans, who were living in the southern part of Spain. And then we go back to, I don't know, European Romanesque period, high Middle Ages with these massive arches. I have a hard time figuring out what this is supposed to be. Here you see a kind of little bit of a Renaissance restraint here. These buildings are basically closely, especially this is closely related to that. The Paramount building, which is now coming to full view, in contradistinction to the other painting, is a kind of Art Nouveau thing, and this is a kind of, the bank building is a kind of, you barely see it, you know, again, a kind of compromise between modern architecture and between historical periods. Very few people are here, just pushed to the side. There are some people approaching us. Originally, I tried to, I don't know, I just felt very uncomfortable with this amount of space here. You have to do something with this, besides these huge cast shadows of the lamp pole here, I guess, on that side. So I asked somebody, I guess it was a strolling boy or girl, to sit here. This is a kind of flower bed or a flower superstructure or whatever. And what happened? That figure, instead of being that small, it was really filling up this area, and suddenly it turned out that the emphasis, the whole subject, is this figure, and everything else is background. Well, this was not my intent, so I said to myself, I just have to live with this. Plus, of course, a painter has a kind of secret weapon, and this is color. So what you can see, I turned loose an orgy of subtleties here. You see these sweet little pink colors, and now suddenly a blue, what I did, I suspect, I just grabbed something out of here, put it down here. To make things even worse, echoes of this blue are moving in here to make things even worse. You see, my signature is again done in blue with the intention. Otherwise, these things would have been awful hot, just pinks and oranges, which is, of course, dominant color theme in here. It was fun to paint this, because I didn't know whether to take these things seriously, how to treat them as major architectural landmarks, or sweet little kids, running around the ice cream parlor picking up different strawberries and lemon and strawberry and, what is this? I don't know, something. So I decided to create a kind of cheerful feeling about this, as if these buildings would have been happy to be tolerated by the sky and by the ground. As I said before, it was a kind of sweet intrusion. Again, some of the tricks, which I used in the previous painting. You see this kind of cast shadow here, which segments this road in two pieces. So again, you have that kind of more sense of depth. But I tried to avoid to get into too many details. It is just interestingly enough, the buildings are characterized not so much by their architectural profile, but what kind of awnings, what kind of shop sign or signboards they have. So instead of emphasizing this upstairs, this is the crux, this is the main color theme of the whole thing. And again, you remember I put my hands up. Once I knock this colorful sequence out, I don't mean the whole thing falls apart, but certainly it loses a great deal. Another thing, which you don't see in the previous thing, now in the previous painting, here I had enough sky to work with. So I introduced these sweet clouds, which are just very easygoing and to a certain extent emphasize this playful action what is in here. As a matter of fact, they personify it. They make it as a kind of model as far as movement is concerned, for these elements. Again, if we are looking at the whole thing from the point of view of the architectural historian who is making a very careful pen and ink drawing, of all the columns, all the cornices, and how this was solved by the architect, or all these Mauresque. They are very nice elements. But this is not an architectural rendering. It is a kind of poetic recreation of something which was there. I am sometimes accused, this guy doesn't have any imagination, he is just working from nature, and he is, if you take a photo, more or less you get the same kind of impression. Well, this is very far from the truth, These things are carefully edited, recreated, things are added, things are emphasized, things are taken out, so it is, they go through that kind of creative process, which is part of seeing and part of the mind, which is making judgments. So from that point of view, I think this introduces a little bit of a different sound, because both of these previous paintings, you remember the Mexican village and the other, which I just discussed, they were dense, if you were a bird, you couldn't fly all over the place. Here, yes, you can fly out and end up in Fargo, North Dakota without any kind of impediment. Same thing in here, you zoom back toward us. So that kind of sense of freedom and at the same time a sense of fragility. You know that this thing is really wedged in between the powers of this and between the powers of that. So what else is there? So you see, it's a kind of different existential stance, different existential conditions. You know, and although again people think, you know, that, well, the painter's task is, you know, there are signs, some lawyers are here, you know, and those white signs were supposed to be mentioning all these names, you know, but this is irrelevant. You know, we are talking about more essential things in painting than these kind of, well, pettiness. I don't know, perhaps this is too harsh of a word. I think, you know, I did not expect that I am going to paint 3 paintings basically of the main street of St. Cloud. I said to myself, if I paint, you know, then I better go out and see the quarries or Beaver Island. And indeed I did this. You know, perhaps we can have another series of that, you know, but not now. But somehow these 3 became a kind of organic unit, and I am just as surprised as a mother who is giving birth to 3 kids instead of none, you know, because these kids were not planned, you know, so, and I don't know, Planned Parenthood and me might not be mixing too well as far as artistic creation is concerned. Well, I think you might enjoy these things individually, and certainly you should, but in a sequence, you know, they really mutually reinforce each other, and perhaps it is for some realists, quote unquote, you know, this is too much of a kind of optimistic, quote unquote, representation of St. Cloud. This is not how people perceive it. I don't know. Because see, unless I am a commercial artist, I paint not somebody else's perception, but I paint my own perception. And of course, again, people like it or not, you know, but certainly once you look at these things, then you have to take it or leave it, or in case of the owner, he is the one who has to live with this. So I think this is all what I can say about these 3 paintings, and I am very grateful that somebody is, let's hope somebody is going to listen. Thank you again. So, well.
Awesome. That was awesome. So you actually said that you had a young person sit probably.
Oh yes, yeah, here.
Here.
I get a girl. You know, I said to myself, okay, honey, what are you doing? Oh, no, you better sit down. You know, and I think if you have an X-ray eye, you would see that this is somehow surviving. There is a human figure underneath here.
I see it.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, but perhaps you see some of these shadow there, you know, but you really need fantastic chemical and X-ray knowledge, you know, to bring this thing out. For all practical purposes, she is buried forever there, you know. But as a kind of a wretched artist goes through this kind of wrenching decisions. What shall I do with this? You know, and okay, you try this, then it works or doesn't work, you know, and finally you have to make a decision. You know, okay, either it goes this way, that way. And so I took a risk. I said to myself, damn it, you know, I just leave it here.
Right.
Okay, so, and especially in the sequence, you know, if all 3 of them would be working with this kind of approach, it would be a crashing ball, but this is the only one. So it is, again, that tension is there.
Well,
you know?
it definitely is. That's the thing I felt was, it's like we're on the plains and you're going to Fargo.
Yeah, that's
it is.
Yeah.
That's what
that's
I
it.
see in here. Cow town, almost like a cow town.
Yeah, it is. So in the 2 other things, you know, I created a kind of sweetly false impression that this is a very dense Mediterranean town, you know, because you see things were on top of each other. Here I said, folks, let's wake up, you know, this is the Midwest. Okay, so this is the.
How did this black line kind of come here?
Oh, boy, I should have mentioned this thing, you know, but I don't know. This is a stop sign in here, you know, and it is supported, the red light is supported by a huge cantilever. Can you see this? Huge cantilever light in here, which was really making a big red blob in here and cutting in front of all these buildings, you know, so it was just too much for me. I said to myself, forget about it. So I knocked it out, you know, but not 100%. And now it is. See, I wish I would have done this with the figure. Then, now in a ghostly manner, this is still there. It doesn't bug me. You know,
I don't either. I like it.
Because it is an extra little kick, you know.
It's a little bit of grit on the bricks. It adds a little bit of...
Yes, it is, because we have this kind of visual noise sometimes, you know, things are standing in the way, you know, which should not be, but this is our life experience.
Yes, Yep. Oh, I love it. I think it's just fabulous.
You know, over the years, I'm not going to be around for too long, you know, but, in your case...
I almost left last summer, you know.
I know that you almost kicked the bucket, you know, last summer, you know, and it is, but, you know, especially when, I don't know, some developer is coming here, you know, and knocks out all this, puts a high-rise here, you know, these things are going to be absolutely precious, you know.
Right. But, you know, that's why I got this painting, is because this building here is such an important part of my life.
Yes, Mom. You know, well, we are through.
Yeah, we're
That's
done.
great.
Yeah. He gets an A.
Awesome job.
I got an 8 today. You know,
Wow.
today.
So did Jim. He is a pro.
I don't know. We'll
Well,
see. But I'll edit it out and definitely get you a copy.
Yeah, well, we still have to do the other.
Before I tear down, is I zoomed in on this, and from this point, even though, no, I think, never mind. I was going to have you put that back up there and let me get a little footage, but I don't think I want to do that. I won't need to do it, because when I do, if I do edit, now the other thing is when I made my first one, remember my purpose was, this is mine, and if I want to go look at that door, I could. And what I tried to do, at first I was zooming in a little bit, and then I backed off and says, no, I wanted to see you go like this. Of course I had the mirror in the background like the other one, and I thought it just worked out so sweet. You were really, really excellent. And you know what's it's fun for me is now that I own them, I actually was listening to you for the first time tell me about this. First time telling me about this.
Because see, most people, they don't give a damn, you know, oh wow, this is your problem. You put a girl in here, you know, was she good looking? Yes, she was good looking, you know, but then this was the problem, you know. Imagine that sweetheart being, throwing her in here, you know, sitting in a kind of attractive position. Who gives a damn about these things? Everybody is concentrating here. You know?
Yeah, and that was a very, very smart move to do that. In fact, at first I was disappointed with all of this space, but then I became more fond of it, and I would be looking at those colors that you were pulling in here, and I'm looking at the depths of the colors, knowing where this is and stuff. So I became more intrigued with this area, but now knowing that this is where that girl was sitting, and it's just like the painting you did for the St. Ben's out there, how you had...
You remember, I went through hell with this, you know, because I wanted to do something else, you know, what they had in mind, you know, so... Well, that's, you have a schedule too, you know.